I want to skid to death's door sideways, not in a well-preserved body, thoroughly used up and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.
And here we go. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
There are so many reasons we love Miki. Number one, hello, Tushy. Hello.
Hello.
How did you come to us with this hello, Tushy concept? And what were we thinking to say yes?
Well, who doesn't want a clean butt, you know?
Right.
It's kind of time that we stop using toilet paper and actually like wash with water properly.
Right. You know, even Dr. Oz always told us, like, you should use water. You shouldn't use anything rubbing against your whatever. Well, I
mean, the analogy I always give is, imagine if you jumped in your shower, did not turn the water on, and just used dry toilet paper.
Oh,
you know, people will be like, what are you doing? Are you okay? You know, and so like the fact that we've been deeply indoctrinated to believe that wiping with dry paper actually cleans, it just smears poop around.
Okay. It's true though. But when was the moment where you said this is what we need? Like, were you sitting there on the bowl? Like, when did it happen?
No. Well, so I'm half Japanese, half Indian. So my mother, so in Japan, like bidets are literally ubiquitous. You find bidets in McDonald's, you know? And in India, they use water too. They don't use toilet paper, but they use like buckets with like, you know, with literally like a little squeeze thing that you just spray your butt. So it's a little more lo-fi version, but it's still water. In Italy, they don't use any toilet paper either. They just literally use water, a bidet, and then towels to pat dry. So we actually at Tushy offer an opportunity to actually eliminate toilet paper altogether by washing your butt with our Tushy bidet and then patting dry with our butt towels if at the end of it. But you can also use 80% less toilet paper if you want, but you're still saving 80% of your money and trees and resources every single time you go to the bathroom. So, and you're properly cleaning yourself. So it kind of feels like a no-brainer. And then also when you're like going out, about to like have sexy time, or you're about to go on a date, you feel sexy, or you feel cleaner, you feel better. You don't feel gross.
You know what? The end game is always sexy time. You always remember that.
He said end game.
Yeah, Frog.
I always use the analogy of like, if you got mud on your leg, you wouldn't just wipe it off with a rag. You would get like something, you know, you want water to clean that mud off.
Of course.
It's the same thing.
All right. By the way, we are getting somewhere with this incredible conversation with Miki. Entrepreneurship is just an amazing headline of yours. I know that going back almost 10 years ago, not quite, your book called Do Cool Shit, Quit Your Day Job. I was always intrigued with that book, and I didn't know until recently that was you that wrote that book. And of course, even though, in my opinion, it seems to be a great read for women who really want to find their center and get out there and start. It's for all of us. It's a fantastic book.
Yeah. No, Do Cool Shit was, subtitles, Quit Your Day Job, Start Your Own Business, and Live Happily Ever After. Not written for women. It's written for any aspiring entrepreneur who just wants to go from step 0 to step 1 to 5 in their entrepreneurial journey. And I feel like, back then when I was deciding to become an entrepreneur, I was reading like voraciously all these books, Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. I then read Tony Hsieh's Delivering Happiness. I read, just all kinds of entrepreneurial books, or I would read these super boring, like how to start a business book. And I would just be like cross-eyed and bored after page 3 because it was so dense and terrible. So I was just like, in Richard Branson's book, Losing My Virginity, which is amazing, he would be like, then I raised $1 million and then I made a $1 billion company. But you're like, but how? Like, even get the first meeting when you have no contacts? Like, how did you get press when you didn't have money to hire a PR firm? Like, how did you even get your friends together to even ideate your business without even having a clue where to begin? Like, all these basic beginning questions, but written in a story-driven format. I was like, I want to be a page turner and like excited to start a business, not being like, oh, I have to like go to business school or read this really dense book on how to start a business. So there was this need for a marriage of a fast-paced, like, oh my God, journey book that you're just like, I want to see what happens next. But then also gives you like, what was the first email I wrote to get like a potential investor to come and meet with me? Like, what did I like, I used to have fundraising dinner parties after I kept raising $0 because I was so awkward trying to go and talk to investors. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I started organizing these fundraising dinner parties because I loved throwing dinner parties. I was very comfortable in that setting. And so I would start doing that. And so in my book, Do Cool Shit, I wrote like, what did I cook? What was the email I sent? How did I set up the loft that I borrowed from a friend to make it feel really enticing for investors to meet each other and feel like they're part of a community? So then they all invested. Like, that's how I raised the money. So stuff like that, super granular.
I love the read. It's fabulous from the very beginning when you crawl into that weird entrepreneur's cruise ship and all the way to the end. It's really an amazing read. Now, Miki's talking about being an entrepreneur. Tell everyone, other than Hello Tushy, what else you've done, what else you've launched, what succeeded and what failed, because it's the failures you learn the most from, I'm assuming.
Totally. I mean, where have I not failed? I think, the first business was the restaurant business. I started Wild, New York City's very first gluten-free farm-to-table pizza concept. And back in 2004, 2005, people were like, gluten-free farm-to-table pizza? That sounds like cardboard. Like, we used local seasonal toppings, gluten-free flours, hormone-free cheeses. And, instead of putting tons of sugar and sauces to cut the acid, which is what most people do at pizza shops, they just take tons of sugar and put in tomato sauce and just make tomato sauce. We use fresh carrots and fresh onions and slowly cook them over time, and which naturally caramelize and then create a sweet sauce. Stuff like that, where back then it was just like, we were weird. I spent like 2 years standing outside my restaurant with little pieces of pizza, being like, excuse me, like healthy pizza. And everyone would walk by and I'd be like, gluten-free pizza, like everyone would keep walking by. I'm like, farm to table pizza. It would almost be like A/B testing headlines, like, while just standing outside my restaurant, seeing what people would react to, and if they would stop and try a piece of free pizza or not. And so I kind of learned a shit ton about people and behaviors and what gets people interested, what gets people to lean into trying something new. Nobody likes to be told what to eat. Don't tell me what to eat. My mom. And so like it's a super fine line of like how to talk with people. And I think that 2 years of just deep research, standing outside my restaurant for hours and hours, just trying to get people to come in, I learned so much about, like behavioral shifts and just humans. And so when I started Thinx, my next company, the Period Proof Underwear, which was the first one that really went to like, 9 figures, over $100 million, when I sold it, I learned a lot about how to talk to people in a way that was like, oh my God, period underwear. Like, who would ever bleed in their underwear? That sounds like the most bizarre, disgusting, weird thing ever. And yet there was so much liberation and freedom and just like, oh my God, I forget I'm on my period, like that kind of energy. But how do you get people to open up to a conversation? So I kind of developed a thesis around it. It's a kind of a 3-pronged thesis. The first prong is it has to be a best-in-class product. It has to be the tastiest pizza. It has to be a pair of underwear that you absolutely love putting on your body. It has to be a bidet that actually washes your butt properly and looks cool in your bathroom. Doesn't look like some weird, like geriatric device that's something wrong with you, or like something like, are you okay? Like kind of thing. Each product has to be best in class. So best in class, like from a product perspective. And then the second prong, it has to be artful, aesthetically artful and creative across every touch point of your brand, like considered artful design across every touch point of our brand. When we were launching Thinx or Tushy, we're talking about sensitive things, periods and poop. And like, people are like, what, And so instead it's like, we made art and we made it look like gallery art exhibit style aesthetic. So people would be like walking by our subway campaigns or whatever, and they'd be like, wow, this is beautiful. What is this? And so their first inclination was to lean in to be like, what is this? It's so beautiful. And then they're like, oh my God, periods, but like the first thing they did was already open up their heart a little bit to lean in. And that was enough for us to kind of like get people to open up to the potential idea of trying something new. And then the third prong is accessible, relatable language across every touch point of your brand. And so the idea that, right now when, we're introducing something new, you want to be heady and clinical and medical and technical and academic, and being too like, look at my new cool gadget thing. People are like, huh? Like, does it work? I have no idea what you're talking about. This is bizarre. I'm out of here. So I learned that you have to talk to people like you're texting your best friend. Like, how do you text your best friend about something that you just discovered? It's like, kind of like, you don't care a little bit, you're nonchalant, you're funny, you're just off the cuff. You just don't give a shit at all about, you can tell it's authentic. It's not just like, I wonder what people want me to say and how I want to say it. It's just so like, it feels so contrived. And so we learned that like, how I text my best friend about this thing and make it beautiful, and obviously it has to work and be an awesome product, that opens up someone and trying something new. And that's what we built Tushy as well, to a 9-figure business too.
Hey, so Gandhi and I and Danielle, we were talking before you signed on into the Zoom room about what it's like to start a business and the fright. And I always say there's a thin line between excitement and being frightened, right? And Gandhi, you were actually saying that Miki had once said.
Yeah. So I was creeping your website, and you were talking about all of the cool things that, you've figured out about the business side of things, but specifically you've had some shocking setbacks. And I think that that's really important to talk about, because all we see on Instagram is the success at the end. We don't see that ride getting there. So when you talk about your shocking setbacks, what kind of setbacks are you talking about, and how do you get around them?
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with everything from, putting out products in the market, and them just not working. I've tried, I've dealt with, employees who have been really, really challenging in the past. When you hire, one type of cohort of people, for us, it was super young, 20 something women, and no different ages, no different races, it was just like a bunch of, young white chicks. I learned a lot about the importance of diversity, the importance of different ages, the importance of it was just like the people who just wanted to come and work for my company. And it was very like feminist AF types. And it was too much. I didn't want it to be like a kind of a man-hating feminist AF. It just kind of somehow like attracted a certain type. And I looked at my kind of culture, and I was like, I gotta fix this. And so I let some people go, and a lot of insane stuff happened after that. I learned a lot how to protect myself, how to, really build a culture that was sound. And again, like extremely diverse in every single kind of version of it. So Tushy, I learned so much. I put an executive team in place. I have a CEO, a COO, a CMO, a full like executive team with a ton of experience, and we have every race, every gender, every age, and that creates a soup of actual success. And I learned that in a really painful way.
Wow.
You
know what? We've talked to Miki about a lot. Let's talk about the reason. I think the original reason we were supposed to talk to you today, your new book. Your new book, of course, is called Disrupt Her. I like how you call it. It's a manifesto. Usually when we hear a manifesto, it's written by someone who moves to the mountains to build bombs and mail them to people.
The Unabomber.
So
I love it.
Let's talk about your version, Disrupt Her. What's it all about? And this is today's Miki.
Yeah, well, Disruptor, it's interesting because, it has the word her in it. And again, implying that it's written for women. And I'm sure, I don't know if you saw in like the first few pages of the book, I say, it says her in it. And that's actually done purposefully. It's meant to be read by all humans. But, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, men read all those texts, and yet Aristotle, Socrates, and yet they all say he, who, man, like it's all about man. And yet women read those texts too. So why can't we say woman and her and she and have men read it too? Of course we can. And so that alone is a big disruption in the beginning of it. Like as just saying like, hey, it has her in it, but he is within her, just like man is within man. And so it's written for everyone. And so I wanted to kind of disrupt that notion and kind of just say that up front. So it is written for everyone. And really I wrote the book because, again, post Tushy and post things. And, we live in this weird takedowny culture. And we live in this kind of, world where, it's like this clickbait, media world that's really, really hard to thrive in as an entrepreneur in a lot of ways. And as someone who disrupts things. And I wrote it almost to like soothe, those who are trying to push the boundaries of society. Right now we're told, don't talk about money. you can't talk about certain things. You have to be in a monogamous relationship. You have to follow a career path. Otherwise you're seen as someone who kind of just floats around, collect more stuff. And if you collect more stuff, then you're actually, like have higher status, the more stuff you have, and all these, the concept of feminism and patriarchy, there's just all these like sensitive, exposed nerve things that people feel very uncomfortable talking about. And so it's kind of like a read that takes you through all kinds of things and issues that, and parts of our lives, like the major areas in our life that we feel very uncomfortable really talking about. I mean, how many times have you actually talked with your friends about what you do with your money? And like, do you invest? Oftentimes, some people do, but a lot of people don't. A lot of my girlfriends and I and friends and I haven't talked about, wait a minute, like, where do you put your money? Like, what do you do with it? Who are you investing it with? Because it's such a taboo subject. Or, like I've been in a relationship for 10 years. Like, are you like, how do you maybe like keep it exciting by opening it up in a container? I don't know, like, or not, or what is it that you like, or if it's about like, we live in a zero waste world and yet everyone's buying more shit. And so it's sort of like, how do I navigate society's desires of me and then my own disruptive viewpoint? So the book is really a permission slip to just disrupt every single notion that exists in the world and just understand where all of those sort of, conditioned beliefs come from and then disrupts them one by one.
If you're going to throw a lot of frightening thoughts out there for people to consider doing, obviously you've given proof from your own career where the more frightened you were at some points, you saw bigger payoff at the end. I mean, that's what we need to see. I'm hoping that I get this in this book. Do I?
Yeah. I mean, you get freedom and liberation and you get agency for your own decisions back. And I feel like we're just like, well, I guess it's just the way it is. I guess I have to use dry toilet paper to wipe my ass. I guess that's just the way it is, and it's like, no, wait a minute. I can actually like find my own agency and decide for myself what actually works for myself. Like I can actually like say, no, that system is super old and tired and comes from 150 years ago from, a society that was invented by people no different than you or me, mostly like, like dudes from back in the day that are super like from the church and like who are really like puritanical, and it's like, we're all fluid beings. We're all kind of like, we're here for one short blip, like, on earth just for like, it's like I call it a fart in the wind. Like we're just here for a fart in the wind. And like, what are we going to do with that time? Are we going to just spend it living in a safe box so we're societally correct? My favorite saying is this William Wordsworth quote. And he says, I want to skid to death's door sideways, not in a well-preserved body, thoroughly used up and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
I'm guilty of that. Look at me.
Yeah.
My body can't handle much more of this shit.
So it's like, why not live as authentically ourselves, whatever that is? Like this book isn't telling you like, now this is how you should do it. It's like, this is how you can like understand the conditioned systems and the beliefs. And then this is how you can do to liberate yourself from that. And then decide for yourself what's the most like right for you with as much integrity as possible.
It sounds like a concept that a lot of people are afraid to embrace, but at the same time, you should be more afraid not embracing this concept. And I mean, we're all guilty of that. Gandhi, Danielle, did you want to talk to Miki about anything in particular? Because we've been buzzing about you for like several days now.
I could absolutely talk to Miki all day long about all of her ideas and all of the knowledge that she has gained over the years experimenting and a lot of things that people are getting into now. I mean, we've been talking about the Great Resignation and how everybody has taken these last 2 years to really evaluate what they're doing with their lives, and a lot of people are changing things. So I find all of the pieces of advice that you have fascinating and useful because I've been one of those people. Obviously, I didn't quit my job, but I tried to start my own business, and I'm in the process of doing that right now, and I'm going to use what you've already done to make my life easier. So thank you for that.
Yay. I love it. I actually just launched a course on Mind Valley called 0 to 100 million. It sounds a little intense, but it's really like building $1 million business requires the same amount of energy as building a $10 million business, requires the same amount of energy as building $100 million business. So why not just kind of reach for the stars and shoot for the moon? And I think we again often kind of tall poppy ourselves, which is like we cut the tall poppies of our own lives because we want to just keep ourselves safe and small. And it's like, no, just swing for the fences. Like, fuck it, one short precious life, let's go for it. And so my course on Mind Valley called 0 to 100 million really just walks you through exactly step by step. I shot like 100 videos on what I did to go, what my team and I did together to go from 0 to 100 million for both of my companies,
Wow.
So
Done. Go watch that.
Yeah, we've got homework, kids.
I just want to say thank you for the Ask Me About My Butthole t-shirt, because my husband has gotten so much pleasure out of this t-shirt. So he loves it so much, so thank you for that.
So there's that.
Yeah.
We have many reasons to thank you. Miki Agrawal, thank you so much for coming on. The book that you need to pick up is called Disrupt Her. But also, don't forget, Do Cool Shit. That's like 8 years old. It's still very relevant today, even more so today than it was when it came out, in my opinion. And of course, Hello Tushy.
Yes,
Go to
my favorite thing.
.com and get one of those things installed today, and you'll be ready for loving. So many
It'll
reasons.
take your love.
So many reasons to say thank you, Miki. I can't wait to see you in person so we can go on and on and on, if you don't mind.
Literally, I'm waiting for the dinner invite.
Perfect. Miki Agrawal, thank you so much for coming on with us. You have a great day, okay?
You too.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Love you all.
The Mercedes-Benz Interview Lounge.